Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Simon Dandy. I am the VP of Product Evangelism here at Litera Microsystems. And this webinar is part of our educational Changing Lawyer series. This accompanies our Changing Lawyer publication. And if you haven't read this magazine, don't worry, we can send you a link to the online version after this webinar so that you can share some of the great content in there with others in your firm. So today, my colleague Matt James is going to discuss ways of overcoming partner resistance to technology change in law firms. Having spent many years in the IT department of a large law firm myself and having some scars to prove it, I know how challenging this can be, but there is some success to be had, and we've seen and experienced this with our customers ourselves. So we want to help you by using our experience to dig in and understand this further and share the information that we've unearthed from working closely with our law firm customers. We have a lot to cover, and in the next 20 to 25 minutes, we're going to cover the current legal desktop and the challenges built into that. What is partner resistance and why this occurs? We're going to discuss change and why that's so hard for people, and how to achieve partner acceptance and what success actually looks like. Finally, we'll cover the Litera Microsystems approach and how we address this with our new and improved document lifecycle offerings. If you have any questions regarding any topic during the session, please just enter them into your question window and we'll answer as many as we can in the time allotted during the Q&A session at the end. To see any recordings, this will be recorded, but to see any recordings from this or previous sessions, check out our support forum at support.litera.com. And now, without further delay, I'll pass over to Matt.
Great, thank you, Simon. The first item that was on the agenda there that we talked about was really a pulse check around the current legal desktop. And I find this to be very relevant to the fact that as we go through this demonstration and recording here, we'll see that there's a common theme that tends to be around the change that's associated with the technology concerns that we're going to be speaking to. And really that has a lot to do with historically what has been offered to the legal industry. So here you'll see that we've put together a screenshot that may not be all that unfamiliar to those of you who are attending today, where there's a series of tabs on the right-hand side. So vendor A, vendor B, vendor C, vendor A2, and so forth. And we can start to see how congested that really becomes. And if we think about it from an IT perspective, we're well aware that there's a lot of add-ins and it can be sluggish within Word. But if we think about it from the end user's perspective, there's too many solutions. There's too many tools and applications and tabs and locations. I don't know where to go at what point in time to use whatever particular functionality I'm looking for to achieve my end result, right? So the challenge that has presented itself is this piecemeal desktop with a variety of different solutions that are put into the environment, which are not intuitive to the workflow by nature. As we start talking about multiple vendors coming into that space, we often find that there's feature overlap, right? So again, a challenge in understanding when I would use something, but which one of those I should be using. And often when there is so much going on in a ribbon, whether it's robust technology, whether it's all feasible to the practice area at different points in time, it often discourages a user from using the technology because it's overwhelming, right? If we think about some of the most simple solutions in technology, such as an iPhone, there's an app for that, right? I can go to it, I can accomplish what I'm looking to do. So the piecemealing of the desktop, especially inside of Word or Outlook, for example, is really convoluted and often is too overwhelming for the end user. So knowing that that's really the baseline of what's offered today, let's talk about partner resistance, and particularly in the lawyer's experience. Are they truly adversaries to technology, right? Some of the things that we'll see here are common quotes that we've heard or that feedback that we've received, right? In a traditional lawyer, I've been working this way for 40 years, right? So don't bring this technology to me right now. There's no reason for me to need to change that, or I don't do that type of work. That's all on my secretary. I have a secretary that does all of that. Talk to them. In that scenario, I would identify that neither of those quotes are about being adverse to technology. Both of those are being adverse to changing. And right now that changes because we've provided no additional value to the change. Or when we talk about bringing technology into the firm and trying to get training, many firms have no sort of mandatory training. And the reality is that individuals don't have time for training, right? I need to spend time billing. I need to be profitable. Or we say they don't use technology, they don't show up to training, there's no point in doing that. And again, I would say there's some fallacies to that. Most of this is about why would I change my day-to-day to come to a particular time where I could be making profit for the organization or building business. And then I think the mindset that we all speak to, and there's many jokes on the internet about it and articles about lawyers don't change, right? That wouldn't work at our firm culture. Our demographic is not going to be using technology. We've always worked in this fashion, or even again pushing it off on someone else. Our legal assistants do that type of work. This isn't for us. And what I'll say here at the bottom is that none of that jumps out to me to say that I don't use technology or that we're, as a partner, our practice doesn't require technology. In fact, it's all a version to change for the sake of change, right? Nobody has provided any sort of guidance to say this is why we're bringing in the technology, or this is what's going to change and make your life easier as you approach that. So while the whole theme of this particular webinar is about partner resistance, the resistance isn't necessarily to technology. It is important to speak to what change really has to do with the end user, and it's all about user disruption. So as we take a look here, part of the publication that Simon spoke to early on, this is a graphic from that, as well as some information about how 3 in every 5 law firms struggle against partners who resist change, right? And change is hard, we all know that, but it's especially hard when it's not apparent why there's change. And those are what's going to feed to the quotes that we hear of, well, we've always done it this way, or that wouldn't work here. There are a lot of impacts and influences right now in changing of the market that are changing this result, right? So if we look at the workforce, over 50% are millennial based, those who have grown up with technology their entire life. And we also know that competitively more needs to be done for less, and that less can be money, or that less can be a cost, I guess, in that sense, or that can be time. So the only constant right now really is change. We speak to a lot of firms that say, wow, this looks fantastic, or this would be a great idea, but we've just gone through so much change. There's change fatigue here. They've had to move to Windows 10. They've had to move to Office 2016. We just put in a new document management system or a billing system. And again, understanding the end users and the disruption to their workflow, if change is introduced in a manner that shows value, these are easier to overcome. It's a domino that's falling into the next, which is that we've introduced change that's made your life easier. Stick with us, we can continue on with that. I put in one here about still on the billable hour, right? That's also a resistance to changes. Maybe that the scenario in which I work hasn't changed, so the focus on efficiencies and that side of the thing may not be as important, but we are still seeing fixed fee arrangements creeping in all aspects of law. Always a theme around clicks, right? We don't want to introduce something where, especially if they're unfamiliar with it, they have to click more times to do something. One example I heard was that it could take me 10 clicks to send a single email. And we've even seen some reports of studies that show that each click could be valued at $6 a piece, right? So we want to make sure that we're not disrupting user workflow as we introduce change. The other piece to it is that in speaking to many partners at tech committees or those who are really interested in user experience, they often talk about what we pointed out to be in the piecemealing of the desktop, which is that there's different names, locations, and functionalities every month, right? We could be bringing in new technology, or vendors may be changing the way that they're labeling things. And it's very difficult to keep up with that. It's much easier to just hand it off to someone else who can do that, where their expertise is in the software and mine's in the content. So I think being very conscious of what the user disruption in the end user experience would be when you introduce that change is going to help overcome some of the aversion to technology, as we say. But with that being said, we've had very good experiences where we have an opportunity to work with a partner, and they're very focused on helping me understand why this change is being introduced, right? So we want to make sense. We want to avoid replacement for the purpose of replacement. Don't take away something I've been using for 10 years just to give me another one. Help me understand why that would be valuable to me. What problems will go away? In fact, it's very important that I stay competitive. If I know other firms are investing heavily in technology, or if I know that it is focused on ethics, that we best represent our customers and clients, or that we're receiving pressures from the outside to be able to do these things in a quicker fashion, that's very important, right? And that often results in quotes that we hear that are kind of the opposite of what we saw on the previous slide, which is, this makes my life so much easier. We actually have this, right? I didn't know we had this technology. I've spent X amount of hours trying to overcome this challenge, and you've just shown it to me in a matter of seconds. Or why has there been no training on here, right? So this is a funny one. This is where we can't get partners necessarily to show up to training, but then once they find out that this is available and something like this exists, or even the firm has access to it, immediately the question becomes, well, where's the training been on this for me? And that's a separate thing that we'll kind of touch on today, but emails that maybe are ignored from IT or from a vendor, or a way of easily allowing someone to push that to the side or push it into a spam folder. We want to make sure that we make those individuals aware of what's available. I talked to an individual who told me that 2 years ago, you could not sell me on technology at all. Today, I'm the biggest supporter of that. And actually, that was based, I asked, what's the sudden change? And it was all about the checklist manifesto book. And the reality of what that says is that when something goes wrong, it's not usually one isolated instance. It's a series of multiple things that happen at one time. And human nature is to not be able to identify all of those at once. We're trying to solve a single problem. And the mindset here is that if you have a checklist for your day-to-day of what you do, you can ensure that you're going to avoid this perfect storm of issues that can bubble up. And in order to do that in today's day and age and capabilities of technology, you can automate many of these checklists, right? So it doesn't make sense to sit and Control F through a Word document or an email or an Excel file when you can have technology that can quickly pinpoint those concerns, draw your attention to that, and allow you to make a decision. Often we find that once this has been presented to them in a manner that shows how their life can be made easier, their day-to-day will be a bit more seamless, you start to get those questions that are like, okay, well, what about this? Can it do this, or can it do that? Or I've had this sort of problem. And that actually is a great sign to show that technology is desired, right? There is a desire for assistance in making the day-to-day of some of the tedious tasks a little bit easier. And that plays all into the AI world of things as well. So just on the right-hand side, again, from that publication, a couple of statistics that show that attorney retention would be a little bit different if technology were up to speed in certain areas of that. You can see that millennials don't necessarily have the loyalty that they once did, especially when the mindset is there should be an app for that, and if there's not, I'll go to somewhere that does have technology to make my life a bit easier. And then some more there that you can read up on when we send you that publication. So how to find success? We've kind of gone over this, but it's all about the right time. If you have the opportunity to leverage partner retreats where they've already set aside a week to learn and be educated, that is a great time to show them capabilities. Or maybe through professional development. We all know that difficulty in getting attendance to training occurs within a firm, but when there's continuing education behind that, we can get those individuals to show up, and we can showcase technology that the firm has invested in to say that this is a great solution for you, and you have availability to this, and that really is something that can get right in front of their eyes. Tech committees, right? Those are individuals who are interested in bringing in technology for the organization and want to know what's out there. So if there's the opportunity to grab 5 or 10 minutes to showcase that, you can often get champions internally through that method. Remember, let's position that we're changing it for this reason, these problems go away, and this helps you remain competitive, right? That speaks to what the change is going to offer. I have a pretty poor analogy that I speak to internally here, but if mopping the floors is your day-to-day task and you dislike doing that, me offering you a new mop is not going to be all that exciting. But if I can identify why you dislike that particular task and tell you that I can make those particular issues go away, you're all ears. Again, simplicity, we don't want to convolute it. We don't want things to be overwhelming. And with branding, we want it to be very intuitive to the action that I'm trying to perform or the need that I have. And it should feel like the applications that I spend the majority of my time in, Word or Outlook, for example. So the approach that we have had over the last year, and I would say more so in the last 6 months, has really been about a single end-to-end solution, which is the lawyer ecosystem, right? It's twofold in the sense that it's exactly what lawyers are asking for, but it's also elevating the expectations of what you should get out of a vendor in the legal space, right? You should have an easy time being able to identify who power users are and what quantity versus quality in a usage scenario is, right? There should be a baseline for understanding how common it is for this technology to be leveraged on a day-to-day, but also to be able to understand that if this can eliminate some fires before they start, because we have technology like this in critical situations, that should be valued very highly as well. And then, as I had said, this is all about first draft to final delivery. So we play in the world of work product really being that tangible item and needing to start either from prior work product or something that originates from the outside or something that maybe has been found in the DMS. The goal is to have a single solution that allows you to get from that point to when you need to collaborate, get it out the door, share with an external party. And down in the right-hand side here, what we can see is the simplicity of a ribbon where the branding is around what would I want to do? I want to create, or I want to repair, or I want to compare. I can do all of those without needing to know what products make up what, who the vendor is that owns that. And then on the right-hand side there, you'll see that document lifecycle that we speak to, which really encompasses what the lawyers are asking for, which are simply the tools to do my job, know where to go, when to go for the accomplishments that I need to make, as well as few as clicks possible, right? Do not make this difficult for me. Do not make me have to go to different ribbons, open different documents, leave Word or Outlook. So in summary, really, partners use technology, right? In their day-to-day, it's being utilized. They're utilizing technology today. They're not adverse to their offerings. It's just change for the sake of change. That has a lot to do with the fact that the waters have been muddied from previous technology and what's been offered to the legal platform. There are drastic needs for solutions right now to be able to even keep up with things that are commoditized to the way that other firms in your footprint and your practice, shared practice, are making offerings. And that once we do expose this to individuals at the right time, they are very passionate about what it can provide, right? So it's all about finding the avenue or the particular setting and time to present these, as opposed to maybe a unread email that gets sent in the morning or late at night that just goes into their inbox and is never reviewed. And I think that the last big piece is that I would challenge and encourage everybody to realize that the culture is what we let it be. So the mindset of this is how it's always been is not why it always needs to be that way, and often isn't the best solution for things. But if we all are very guarded when it comes to change as well, we're only allowing that culture to continue to grow. Whereas if we can present things and understand and being open to the fact that it's the way that we present it, and it's almost an HR as opposed to an IT type of scenario as we talk about technology and change, we really can have a larger opportunity for success, whether that is bringing technology in or even getting adoption to current technology. So the last piece here is questions. I think I do see some things flashing here. So Simon, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can go through these and answer these in the time that we have left.
Great, thanks, Matt. Yes, we have one question here. how do we get partners to attend training?
That's often asked, right? So I think the joke that we hear going around is food, right? Food is the best way to get people in. But what we've seen is that it is challenging. If we can identify someone as an internal champion, right, allowing a campaign to be created with email that's generated from that individual. We've even seen videos that have been created. People are more likely to listen to their peers. You're either a lawyer or you're not, right? So lawyers, speaking to lawyers, it works pretty well. Another thing we've done is all about these problems go away if you attend this session, right? And we've built flyers that have even been put up throughout the cafeterias and things like that. But even moving from technical training into professional development where there's continuing education courses, as I mentioned, has been helpful. But it's all about saying, here's the value of showing up as opposed to just saying, come get some training for a product.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my experience, we had success with putting little toys on the desk to promote things that were coming up, and also floor walking. If you can, it can really get to a partner, get floor walkers going early in the morning when some of the partners might be alone and have more time. One-on-one seems to really have a big impact there. Okay, I have another question. How have you worked with a firm to achieve successful software adoption?
Yeah, I think I kind of started getting into that, but one of the things that we've done to really elevate what you expect out of a vendor is provided usage data to back our products, right? And through going through that, there's a variety of value associated with that, but one is that you can really understand who power users are. So those campaigns that I spoke to, I've seen videos that have that individual's face on it. I've had that individual sending emails out, really being able to provide insight into who the people are that are getting value out of this and allowing them to help speak to their peers to really drive that has been far more successful than the IT side of things. The other piece that I'll talk to is really important about the professional development, which is that there's been some leniency on what can be offered from a professional development standpoint. So as long as it's educational to point out that here are things that could really be catastrophic if they're not handled appropriately, and don't worry, it's not all on you and your need to catch everything with manual tasks. There are technologies out there that can help, and here are those. And it really plays as a training around the capabilities and the ways to use that type of technology.
Great. Okay. And I don't think I have any more questions here. So we're coming up to the end of our time anyway. We do want these webinars to be kind of short and punchy and not waste anyone's time by expanding on the topic too much. Thank you for joining us all today. We certainly look forward to seeing you on another Litera Microsystems webinar. If you do have suggestions for future webinars, please reach out to us. The goal of the evangelist team here at Litera Microsystems is to really share our knowledge as much as possible and to provide education sessions as well as educating people on our products. So thank you all again, and goodbye.
Thank you.